Today on the show, we're doing some chanting.
Yeah.
And we're possibly taking some LSD.
LSD.
LSD. LSD. LSD.
Chest bumping with LSD, yeah. Welcome to Gom Jabbar, your guide to the iconic world of Dune. We'll be exploring the themes, philosophies, and characters found in the sandy depths of this vast universe, from Frank Herbert's groundbreaking novels to the adaptations on film and TV. My name is Leo.
My name's Abu.
Oh, and today on the show, we are talking about the trailer that just dropped, the teaser that just dropped for Denis Villeneuve's third and final film in the Dune franchise, Dune Messiah. So exciting.
So exciting. Can you believe it, folks? Before we get into all of that, though, folks, we got to take care of some housekeeping.
Indeed, we do. And first up is our spoiler warning. Now, this is very important, folks. Listen carefully. Today includes spoilers for Dune and Dune Messiah.
Yes.
The books. So, if you want to protect yourself from spoilers, the best thing you could do is go read Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert and then come back, listen to this episode to build up some hype around the movie that's going to be coming out in December.
That's right. And if you're going to go do that, read along with us. We have book club episodes breaking down Dune Messiah chapter by chapter on our feed. So scroll back in the feed. It's from a couple of years ago. We covered that book. Check it out. Read along with us. We'll give you an in-depth read along of that incredible book in preparation for the film. And of course, up top, we have to give a huge shout out to our Kwisatz Haderach level patrons, Daniel, Dion, Seth Redden, Greer, Brad Hutchins, Kevin Mahanram, and Roger Young. Folks,
yeah,
you will be the first 5 inductees into our personal Gom Jabbar Kizarate. You will be our most ardent and loyal followers.
Yeah.
Because your generosity knows no bounds. And that's the foundation we want to build our following on. We thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Our gratitude also extends, of course, to all of our patrons at every level who build the foundation upon which this podcast is run.
Yeah, and we're going to have our Kwisatz Haderach level patrons draw straws to see who ends up being Korba. Really the shortest straw. For sure.
For sure.
But hey, if you are not in a position right now to be a monthly supporter on Patreon, we also have a one-time tip link that's in our show notes. It's a Buy Me a Coffee link. Another great way to help us keep the lights on here at Gom Jabbar. Okay, enough housekeeping.
Yes.
Let's talk about today's episode. We are going to break down what happens in the 2.5-minute teaser trailer. On brand. This is going to be like an 1.5 long episode. So excited for that.
Lock in.
We're going to dive into some of the blink and you'll miss it details that we noticed from the source material. Maybe some of the things that are in the trailer, some of the things that are notably missing from the trailer. And after that, we'll share our impressions and any lingering questions we have. And we're going to talk about what we can expect based on this first glimpse we have of Dune Messiah.
That's right. Okay, folks, get ready. Take a breath. We're going to come back after the break, and we're going to dive into this trailer. We'll see you in a minute.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, I hope you enjoyed your break, and I hope you're ready to talk about Dune Messiah. So, let's kick off our discussion about what actually happens in this teaser. And this teaser opens on a shot of Paul Atreides over a basin of water, his hair cut short. He's got that stylish, low number, like a 2 on the electric razor. And the first montage of scenes accompanies dialogue between Paul and Chani discussing potential children's names.
If we have a girl, what will we name her?
Her name should be Ganima. She would need to be strong, like her mother. What if it's a boy?
I would name him Leto. So he would have the wisdom of his grandfather.
Now, during this exchange, we get sweeping shots over some dunes. This is a Dune movie, folks. We're going to see desert. And then we see a shot of Paul and Chani as they are talking. They're sort of cuddled up inside of a still tent. Chani has that iconic blue headband. And there's some theories about where and when this shot could be taking place. Is this a flashback to an off-screen moment from Dune Part 1 or Dune Part 2? Is this a vision of Paul Atreides? Is this a scene in Dune Part 3? We don't know.
We don't know. It is strange that that this looks like a flashback, but they are talking about children's names. That seems bizarre. People have pointed out the Nizoni scarf is a symbol of a relationship or maybe a pregnancy. So is this a scene that we didn't see from Dune Part 2 where they are hooking up? Maybe she is actually pregnant with their first son and they're talking names? Who knows? Might be a little bit bold to drop that on us. I feel like her being pregnant at the end of the second movie is a fun reveal, but might catch certain viewers off guard. Nevertheless, a lot of questions we already have, and we're 8 frames into this trailer.
Yeah, a lot of questions about Chani in general, about this film and how it's going to handle it. I will add, I think the more that I think about it and the more that we chat about it, we just had a live stream with a bunch of our listeners and viewers talking through the trailer with them as a group. And there was a lot of discussion of Leto the first child, playing a role in the film. The more I think about it, the more that feels unlikely. It feels intentional that plot point was cut out of the first 2 films. And I guess I can't wrap my head around how Leto the First would randomly be introduced and then killed off again randomly. That feels like sort of a wasted plot arc to throw in rather than lean into just Chani is pregnant with the twins that we know and have casted for this film.
I hear you. I think I am a little bit more team. Maybe she is pregnant with their first kid and maybe they don't know at the end of that movie. And I think you actually might have been the one to bring this up, but like the possibility of that child being born and then dying as a motivator for her to seek out Paul.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
You should know that this happened. And Paul being like, and you should know, babe, I've changed. Get back with me.
Babe.
And she's like, oh my God, you're great. You're hot.
Look at my new hairdo, babe. I shaved it all off.
Love the new.
I've changed.
She's like, as it was written, the hairdo looks great. Yeah.
Irulan, I don't even love her.
Don't even love her. It's been 8 years since we last talked. I haven't touched her once, that sort of thing. So
that's a good point, though, yeah.
I do think that is a possibility. And I feel like there are landmines there that would be easy to, again, diminish Chani's agency, and suddenly she's just kind of driven reactively by this thing that's happening to her. But rather than, I absolutely do not think, if she is pregnant at the end of the first movie, that it could be the twins, to be clear. I think that would be such a departure that doesn't work with almost anything else in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, maybe it is Leto the First, Leto the Forgotten, so to speak. And we'll just have to wait to get confirmation one way or the other. Maybe a final trailer before the movie in December will show us enough to maybe make a more educated
to connect
guess.
some more dots. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Denis Villeneuve has confirmed in a Q&A that there is a 17-year time jump between the end of Dune Part 2 and the story that he'll be telling in Dune Part 3. He didn't confirm whether all of Dune Part 3 will take place 17 years after, or whether we'll continue to see flashbacks. I think time will kind of be fuzzy in this film, considering Paul's prescient abilities and how he experiences time. I think the viewer will also somewhat experience time as sort of like the past, present, and future all happening at once and interconnected, which I think would be an interesting way to tell this story, and could be a way to include, for example, the twins, Ghanima and Leto, who have been cast, but include them in a way where they aren't critical to the story. Maybe they're only present in prescient visions that Paul sees.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, something in the wording of Villeneuve, the way he answered that question, makes me think we're going to start the movie before the 17 years and pick up after.
Yeah.
But again, it's hard to say. We're grasping at like individual words in one interview at one point. Maybe we just wait and see a little bit more. But this is also where in the trailer, in the teaser, the footage starts to take on a darker tone, right? We get a quick shot of Fremen troops on some sort of carrier as it lands, beginning to disembark, kind of a fun visual parallel to Paul Atreides and Leto and the rest of House Atreides arriving on Arrakis. Very cool. And then we get a shot of Duke Leto, speak of the devil, his signet ring being passed from one set of hands to another. Now, our live chat that you mentioned, whose hands? That's the question. And when is this happening is actually another huge question. Because in our live chat, one theory was that this is Paul handing his signet ring to Alia at the very end of the movie, saying, "You're in charge now," before he walks into the desert. And
I love that.
Honestly, I like that a lot. I really like that theory a lot. I could see it also just being insignificant. Who's to say?
Who's to say? Okay, I wanted to pause here and just check in on our feelings about something we have chatted about before. We talked about these theories flying around that this film will meld in a bunch of plot from Children of Dune, the third book in the Dune series. Because Leto and Ganima's names have now very explicitly been name dropped in this trailer, and because both characters have been cast, there have been 2 young actors that have taken on those roles for this film. We don't know how they're going to be incorporated. We don't get a single glance of them in this trailer as far as we know. So have your feelings changed, Leo, since the last time we chatted? Do you now think there will be more Children of Dune in this movie than we first suspected?
No. I think I was surprised to hear Leto and Ganima for sure in this like first teaser of the third movie. Like, considering the distance right now between Chani and Paul, it seems very bold to introduce the idea of them even having children in a teaser for the third movie. But again, maybe this is Villeneuve softening people who haven't read the books to the idea of them getting back together, that this isn't a burned bridge that's never being rebuilt, that this is something that could happen. I still think Villeneuve has been very clear that he wants to adapt Messiah and really no further than that. I think what you're saying is absolutely true. We're going to get similar to seeing Alia in Dune Part 2 as a fully grown woman in a still suit on a dune. My impression is at the end of the movie, maybe Paul's lost his vision, akin to when he borrows the baby Leto's eyes to see Scytale. Maybe along those lines where he's having conversations with Leto rather than it being this kind of disembodied voice in his head. We saw Paul and Jessica step aside into this kind of mind room in Dune Part 2 when they have the conversation about him being Harkonnen and finding that kind of middle path forward. I think we are very likely going to see Paul and Leto and Ganima maybe meeting each other in a sort of mind room toward the end. That's my sort of off the cuff.
That's fun. Yeah.
Bet. I think that could work, but I don't know. What about you? Are you convinced we are now getting a 6-hour movie that's also going to cover all of the events of Children of Dune? Who do you think is going to play Faradin?
Oh my
Who's
God.
playing the Laza Tigers?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it's the Laza Tigers have to be Andy Serkis, of course.
Oh my God. Yeah, mocap suits. Andy Serkis and Benedict Cumberbatch.
as pair Laza Tigers. Yeah, make it happen. I completely agree with with what you said. And honestly, I love your theory that maybe near the end of the film, perhaps even after Paul has lost his sight after the stone burner, he begins to see perhaps very vivid visions of his future children as older, teenagers, young adults. So I think they will exist in this film merely as prescient visions. I think Denny brought them into the film because he understands the children are such a core part of the love story between Paul and Chani. And in order for that love story to land off the page and on the screen, we need to need to see the kids. We need to see some part of their family and the tragedy of them losing each other, losing their family. And so I think that is how the kids will be used in this film. I do not think any plot points from Children of Dune will be brought into this film. I think the children will be used in visions that maybe Easter egg hint at Children of Dune, but I don't think we're getting like straight up plot points brought in. We're not getting lots of tigers.
Yeah, even Paul saying, I'm not ready to die, or I can't die yet at the end of the trailer, I think really signifies this is going to be the story of Paul Atreides as he ends at the end of Messiah.
I agree.
Now, the teaser continues. We get a sequence of shots that appear to take us straight into Paul's holy war. Again, the word jihad has not yet been used in these adaptations, probably won't get it, but that rages for 12 years between Dune and Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
We see bodies strewn on ravaged landscapes. Paul and his Fedaykin marching through these like burning forests and bodies half submerged in dusty, ashy water. Really poignant, dark, scary wartime imagery.
Yep.
Here's the audio from this sequence in the trailer.
War feeds on itself. The more I fight, the more our enemies fight back. I'm doing the best I can to protect my family.
So as you can hear there, under Paul's pleas for an end to this war under that voiceover, we also get him chanting in Chakobsa, which is underscored by this rhythm of pounding fists on chests, which we see in a quick shot of Paul and Alia surrounded by what appears to be Fremen warriors. Alia is walking down the line of Fremen warriors, sort of pounding chests as they are rhythmically chanting. Perhaps some sort of pre-war ceremony taking place, maybe a pre-battle sequence. We then see more flashes of war imagery. We get this very cool shot of a machine gun turret in a high tower, This is Saruman on top of Orthanc with a machine gun going...
He's got a Tommy gun. He's like, the fucking Orokai weren't doing it.
Sometimes a wizard's gotta do it himself.
I cast spell gun.
Really cool shot, though. We said this in our live stream when we were breaking down the trailer with our audience, but folks have, I think, incorrectly criticized Villeneuve for not being able to shoot action, but I think that's completely wrong. If you haven't seen the excellent film Sicario, which is also directed by Denis Villeneuve, check that out. He's so good at filming action and tense scenes, and I think Dune Part 2 in particular showcased he can do it. And this film, with all of this war imagery, I think Villeneuve is about to flex on all of us once again and show us that my man can film an action sequence.
Indeed. I agree. I also wanted to say quickly, I think one of the key components of Dune and Dune Messiah is this duality of Paul, the Duke Paul and Muad'Dib, the warrior.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that having Paul's sympathetic plea for the end of the war, on top of him chanting in Chakobsa, spurring on these bloodthirsty Fedaykin that are going into war to kill and to sterilize and everything, I think this is just so brilliant and really shows that Villeneuve is leaning into the elements of this book that are so important.
That's such a great call out, Leo. Yeah,
the two sides of Paul Atreides.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for this wartime imagery because I think you and I agree it does feel missing a little bit from Frank's Messiah. And although we get a scene where Paul and Stilgar talk about this jihad and what happened, I didn't read those paragraphs, and I didn't feel transported to the battlefield to see the carnage myself.
Yeah.
It was all statistics and numbers, and horrifying.
And hindsight, this all happened in the
hindsight,
past to the characters in Dune Messiah within the book.
Yeah, and so it feels like, oh, that's done and dusted. And I think a lot of readers get to that scene where they have that conversation and then move on and kind of go, yeah, but I do like Paul Atreides a lot. I think it'll be very different if we see him cutting people down, covered in blood on the battlefield. And I think that, at least based on this first teaser, Denis Villeneuve is planning to deliver a little bit of that, which I'm excited about.
I think you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. Okay, continuing with the trailer, we have Paul and Jessica in a conversation. Much of this conversation will underscore this section of the trailer. We get a shot of Bene Gesserit meeting within these shadowy halls. And this is when we get a very exciting shot that I think has gotten quite the conversation going within the Dune fandom. We get our first glimpse here of Robert Pattinson as the Tleilaxu face dancer Scytale. He's looking good. He's looking creepy.
Looks great. Yeah.
And behind Robert Pattinson is a large sarcophagus floating on suspensors, presumably being led in to what appears to be Arrakeen, because behind the open doorway we see some palm trees out in the open, and we see a bit of green, but we also see the typical color palette of Arrakis, the dull browns.
Yeah. It looks like Arrakeen. Maybe after some ecological transformation, but for sure it looks like Arrakeen. This is the skin of a killer Bella. I just wanted to make sure that was said at some point during this trailer. So let's pause, because this sarcophagus has started so many fucking conversations.
Yes,
kicked up a lot of dust.
Woo!
And even during our live stream, man, as soon as we started talking about it for like 40 minutes, people were talking in chat about it. So let's talk about the two leading theories, and I'm genuinely stunned at how confident everyone is on every side of this of this conversation. So the first, and I would say my leading theory, is that this is our glimpse of Spacing Guild steersman Edric, who is, of course, an important member of the conspiracy in Dune Messiah. He, in the book, of course, is important because his prescience, his limited prescience, is necessary to blind Paul to the conspirators' meeting. He's kind of a beta test of, can we blind a prescient being by having a prescient being present? And it turns out it works.
He's a living, breathing VPN. Can't track that IP address when Edric's in the room.
Yeah, everyone's just looking at porn during those meetings, 100%. And like downloading books and stuff. It's crazy. It's no productivity at all.
Yeah.
And to be clear, in this trailer, we see the sarcophagus 3 times. We see it once in that shot of Scytale. He kind of turns to look at it and then back. Once entering a port on the side of what looks like a large ship or a large building.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, accompanied by an entourage as they enter the Arrakeen throne room received by Alia in white on the throne. Now, in Messiah, Scytale accompanies Edric as an unassuming aide. He's kind of taken on this appearance to get a firsthand look at the insides of Arrakeen Palace and to meet the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Muad'Dib Atreides.
Yes.
So their appearance together in the teaser is likely leading up to Edric's meeting with Paul. Also, during our live conversation, I was pointing out that we've seen Robert Pattinson do a really wonderful kind of bumbling idiot in a number of movies. Mickey 17 really recently.
Yes.
One of his personas is this like can't get anything right kind of fool. And I think that character with that sly kind of laughing at you look in his eyes would be really effective. And I'm really excited to see how Pattinson kind of chews through whatever scenes he's given.
Me too. Scytale and Pattinson is something that I will have my eye on for this film. Something that I'm particularly excited to see.
Yeah, same.
Now, the other two appearances, that second appearance where we see the sarcophagus entering a port, could be Edric returning to a highliner, right? Maybe locking into the ship's control systems. That port seems to be built to exactly fit the sarcophagus and nothing else, you know? Like we joked in our live stream that like it's a USB port that can only fit one type of USB plug. And maybe Edric is the USB that fits into the ship's port and thus is able to help steer the highliner. That's the purpose of these Spacing Guild steersmen and navigators. That's their whole job.
What just pisses me off, though, is like when you put the sarcophagus into the sarcophagus hole, but it's upside down, and, and you turn it over, and you're like, oh, fuck, it doesn't fit.
And then it still doesn't fit. You're like, which fucking way?
But then it still doesn't fit. And you're like, what the fuck? It's on your 5th attempt that the sarcophagus finally goes in.
It's
and
so
you have
annoying.
To, like, look at, oh, God, dude.
I hate it. I wish they had built these sarcophagus better, you know? Or like, you know, maybe come up with like a sarcophagus C version that you can just plug in any which way, upside down, straight ways.
Yeah, Apple had their lightning sarcophagus, but like, it's proprietary.
Fuck the lightning
was, like,
sarcophagus,
man.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we really need sarcophagus C.
The highliner port system is a mess. We got to get this straightened out, is all we're saying.
They've got USB-C and VGA. It's crazy.
Okay, jokes aside, the third and final appearance of this sarcophagus appears to be a scene where an entourage is carrying this sarcophagus into the throne room. We see Alia sitting on the throne, a bunch of attendants and warriors lined up along the side, and we think this is perhaps the scene where Edric presents Paul and Alia with the gift of a resurrected Duncan Idaho in the form of hate.
Yeah. I do want to cut in just to clarify. We don't know if they're carrying the sarcophagus or if it's floating amongst the ranks. True. And I point that out only because I really need to emphasize how little fucking things we can claim about any of this. So I don't know why people are so certain. It could be Edric floating among the men and kind of among his entourage.
Yeah. Or it could be people carrying a sarcophagus in. It's like impossible to tell. It's all cast in shadow in the shot. Yeah.
Yeah. And this also leads us, I think, to the second theory. And honestly, the more time I've spent with it, the more I have to give it its, what's the saying? It's flowers, it's roses.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give it its credit because I do think that this is still possible. That the sarcophagus is simply a fancy container for the Gola hate.
Ooh.
And that this is going to be the thing from which Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho as hate steps out during this kind of presenting of the gift. And I think the kind of things that convince me that this is at least possible is that, first, Denis has already demonstrated that he is not afraid to cut characters. He cut out Fenring, my boy, my favorite, lovely boy. Also, he cut out the 2 Spacing Guild representatives at the end of Dune Part 2. There were supposed to be 2 representatives of the Spacing Guild. They were not there. So he has already diminished the Spacing Guild in movies we can just watch and say, oh yeah, he's really telling a narrow, focused story as best he can of the things that matter.
Yeah.
And the more we've thought about it, the more Edric doesn't fucking matter.
It's true. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's true.
It's true. Search your feelings. You know them to be true. We had people in our chat telling us, but doesn't Edric blind it? Yes. Edric hides the conspirators. We know. We run a Dune podcast.
We know what Edric does in the story. And
we know how it works. And yet, we don't know, but we are very confident that B-Jazz, for instance, is not going to be in the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't know, but are very confident that Korba is not going to be in the movie.
Yep.
There are a lot of characters that do not need to be in the movie to tell the story of Dune Messiah. And Edric is on that list.
He is.
So let's revisit those 3 scenes that we see and reframe them with the idea of this being a gift. The first shot, the gift, floating behind Scytale. Hate is a Tleilaxu creation. It makes sense that Scytale, a Tleilaxu, is guiding this Tleilaxu creation into the Arrakeen Palace. Here I am to deliver this to Paul.
I also think the imagery of like a resurrected dead guy coming out of a sarcophagus is a little on the nose, but also on point.
On point. I think the idea of keeping him in this kind of container and then the reveal of here's our gift and it opens and he's there, I think that actually works quite well.
Yeah.
Now, the second shot of the sarcophagus entering that building, it is strange that it's a bespoke kind of hole for the sarcophagus-shaped hole. But I could imagine Scytale telling Gaius Helen Mohiam, hey, we've got a gift that we're going to be giving to Paul Atreides that is going to destroy him. And as they talk about that, we see this cutaway shot of the sarcophagus being loaded onto a ship. Ooh, what's it going to reveal? And then a little bit later, we see what it contains, which is hate. And then that final shot is, of course, again, them bringing the sarcophagus in, it floating in, and then it opening to reveal immediately after Duncan Idaho on his knees, kneeling before Alia, and then Paul comes in and they have their sparring session. So in any case, I think it is so possible to cut Edric from the movie. I am convinced that this is still, it is a little bit up in the air. I know other content creators, apparently people in our live chat were saying Quinn's ideas has said definitively that this is Edric. Love Quinn. He's great.
Yeah, friend of the pod.
Yeah, could be. I still think cutting Edric might even be a good move because he doesn't really bring that much to the book. I don't come away from the book going, oh, love Edric. What a great character. So I like B-Jazz more than I like Edric. Like, good Lord, bring B-Jazz, get Edric out of here, But no, I think it is still up in the air. It very well could be Edric. And in fact, I'll just say to wrap up, I want to kind of get both of our opinions. I'll just say quickly, I am still betting this is Edric. I think that when all is said and done. But where I'm at right now is when it is revealed to be Edric, I will be excited. Hell yeah, it's Edric. If it is revealed to be the container for hate, I will also feel excited because what a cool way to reveal hate. And I just want people to not get too married to their interpretation because that's baggage you're bringing into the movie theater that,
it's just going to take away from your experience.
Yeah. Be ready for whatever it is and be hyped because it looks sick. What about you?
It looks awesome.
Where are you falling in this insane debate? I know you're getting a lot of hate on Twitter.
I am getting a lot of hate on Twitter because I'm actually betting the opposite way that you are. I do subscribe to the sarcophagus contains hate theory for a number of reasons. I laid them out in our live stream, but the short version is this tank doesn't look like a tank to me. It looks like an opaque sarcophagus that opens up. I don't see any window through which Edric could be like looking out at the world and operating things and moving around, at least not in the very brief shots of it that we got. And folks have sort of clapped back at me about that reddish glow along the top of the sarcophagus in the shot behind Sidetail. But to me, that just looks like bleeding light from a lamp nearby or something, like in the hall, reflecting off of the surface. I don't think you can actually see anything inside the sarcophagus, which, Edric is described as living inside of a tank filled with spice through which he can see the outside world, and he speaks through like a speaker to the outside world. This, to me, doesn't read like that at all. I could very well be wrong, but I subscribe more to the hate theory. And I agree that Edric is a character that could easily be cut, and in fact, probably should be cut to help streamline things. Sidetail should just take on all of Edric's role in the film. And so that, to me, makes it even more plausible that this is actually hate being transported in, and Sidetail is delivering this gift to Paul and Alia in this scene. But we'll wait and see. And either way, just like you're saying, Leo, either way, I will be happy because it looks great.
Yeah. And again, Edric sucks. Like, what a boring
he
character.
Sucks, man. Yeah.
So I don't know. I would be surprised if like even Quinn in his videos is going, oh, I can't wait to see Edric because I love him as a character. It's like, I think we're all curious about what a guild steersman looks like in Denis' universe.
Of course.
But the reality is, but are you all going to be then disappointed? Like, let's say it is Edric and we never see the form that's in the gas. Maybe he's always a kind of mysterious shadow, and maybe you get a little bit of movement in there, but you don't really see it. Are you all going to be pissed? Like, come on. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering what the end game is for people who are so certain.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point that it's always difficult with an adaptation of a story you love so much to divorce your feelings of things that you love against what is necessary for the story to be told and for it to be impactful in a totally different medium and for a slightly different story to be told, right? Denis Villeneuve's Dune Messiah is not word for word, chapter for chapter, the story that Frank Herbert wrote. It is an adaptation, and so the story is inevitably different, and we're going to lose some things we love along the way. That's just the nature of the beast. And Edric maybe is one of them.
That's true.
I don't even really love him that much, but...
Folks, I lost Fenring. I didn't get Fenring.
Indeed!
You need to be on the same page as me. I need you to lose something too. I need everyone to be a little sour about one specific thing. That doesn't actually... Again, I'm not saying the first movie would have been better with Fenring. I understand. I just like Fenring. So you can like Edric and then, whatever.
That's right.
Anyway, let's move on from the sarcophagus.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to leave
Thanks for tuning
it.
into Sarcophagus Talk. Brought to you
It's
by
a new
Toyota.
trending hashtag on TikTok. Hashtag sarcophagus talk. Move over, book talk. We're talking sarcophaguses. Sarcophagi. Anyway, we are going to take a quick break. But when we're back, we're going to be talking about the rest of this teaser. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, folks. Let's continue our discussion and dive back into this trailer.
How did Father do it?
The trailer continues as Paul's Jacobsa chant crescendos into a bellowing battle chant. And the wartime imagery ramps up. There's troops using suspensors to cross this chasm. Alia is free floating through some sort of enclosed space, presumably also using suspensors. There's Fremen forces clashing with an army that's wearing these like conical helmets and using these long, thin swords on a rainy planet. It appears to be a battlefield that's drenched in water. We even get this like sort of featured hero shot under the pouring rain. This Fremen commander kills off one of these enemies as his men watch, which, if you are a fan of this story, is a striking image to get on screen. Watching Fremen warriors, Fremen who have adapted to lifestyle in the deep desert, battling in the pouring rain, drenched with water from the sky.
Yeah. Really shocking to see these Fremen warriors drenched, standing in the rain. Like, what a crazy idea. And again, wonderful to see some stuff. We know from Dune Messiah, people like Farak, who are talking about being changed, dipping in the sea, coming out reborn. We know how impactful some of those experiences were for Fremen. Maybe we will get to see some of that and not just be told about it, which is very cool. Now, another thing that was brought up by our live chat about this Fremen commander who kills off the kind of looks like the head of the samurai army is that it is definitely Stilgar, was what our chat was saying. We have been burned before when we were saying that obviously the Reverend Mother at the beginning of the movie is Gaius Helen Moheim, and then it was absolutely a different woman. We were just like, shit, we are bad at telling older women apart. So we're not 100% convinced that this is, in fact, Stilgar. I feel like Javier Bardem has such an iconic silhouette. It feels like we would be very sure if it is him. Nevertheless, it would make sense in this scene to show familiar Fremen characters on these planets. So could be. Very well could be Stilgar. I'm kind of convinced that it is. But that being said, it is strange to me. I've seen so much of Javier Bardem recently, and it's strange that I'm not like immediately like, oh yeah, that's obviously him. There is some uncertainty, which makes me think, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
How did Father do it?
Your father never started a war.
Now, after Jessica drops the hardest line of the trailer. Your father never started a war. I have some thoughts and feelings about that, Jessica, considering you pushed Paul into embodying the Messiah. We see a glimpse of Alia in what is perhaps, in this whole trailer, one of the most beautiful shots. Her shroud billowing, this white cloth. Yeah. She's standing on top of this huge platform. We'll chat a bit more about that later on. After this shot, though, we see a image of these bald monks. They seem to be wearing some sort of monk-type robes, standing in the pouring rain. And there were a couple of theories thrown around in our live stream from the live chat about who these folks could be. Theory number one was that these bald monks are maybe supplicants that are praying to Alia standing up on that giant platform. And perhaps they're standing under the rain here on Arrakis because there has been enough ecological change on Arrakis for there to be rain. Or maybe they're undergoing some sort of water ritual where they are being splashed by water as some sort of ritual with Alia within Paul Muad'Dib's religion.
Right. Which would also be a sign of ecological change. Water is not as precious. We can now spray water in the air. You know, people are putting their thumb over the hose and just dousing their friends. Like that's allowed now because of how much the planet's changed. Also could be, right?
That's true. That's absolutely true. Another theory that Leo, you had thrown out there during our live chat was maybe these monks are on Niraj. Maybe we're seeing a continuation of that sequence of the battle. And perhaps these are monks who are about to be murdered as this planet falls to the jihad, to the Fremen hordes who are going to overrun this planet and its people. Maybe this is where we will see, for example, how Paul's jihad destroyed cultures and religions across the empire and imposed the Fremen way on them.
Yeah, I don't want to get too attached to this theory of mine, but I will say I could see you watching Fremen in a, and I say you kind of royally, I think I could see an audience member watching the Fremen battling on these foreign lands, killing the samurai, you know, doing whatever, and still being like, yeah, the Fremen are sick. They're so cool. Team Fremen, rah, rah, rah. I think if the fight with the samurai then leads to a sequence where peaceful monks refuse to obey Paul Muad'Dib's warrior religion and then are slaughtered while not resisting by Fremen warriors, I think that would be a very clear
It's giving ick
for everyone. And I think that maybe is what's necessary.
Yes.
We need you to watch this holy war and to go, oh, I don't feel good about this. This is not good.
Yep.
And I think that a number of monk-attired folks in the rain, unresisting, being cut down by familiar Fremen characters would, I think that would do the job. And again, I don't want to get too attached to this because it very well could literally just be Alia is up on her platform. These are supplicants. We know that there are tons and tons of religious pilgrims, right, who have come to the city to get a glimpse of Muad'Dib, which is like usually Korba pretending to be him.
Or cosplaying as Muad'Dib.
Cosplaying as him. Or Alia, who's, you know, up on her platform, giving a speech, taking questions. Again, she kind of does the crowd working thing that comedians do on TikTok. But either way, we could be seeing that, sure. I would welcome that because, again, it's about time we see crowded people on Arrakis. I want to see the bustling town square.
That's right.
I want to see tarot decks being sold. I want to see merch. Like, it sounds silly, but I think it's a deeply important part of the fucking ludicrousy of the religion that they build up. And I think it's a necessary piece of it. So anyway.
I want to see Gom Jabbar merch from gomjabbar.shop on those stands in Arrakeen.
Yeah, the Ornithopter escape poster. What a beautiful work of art by some unnamed artist. Incredible.
Put it in. We'll send you the digital model. You can just CG it in later. It's all good.
Yeah, the Ornithopter flight mug. What a beautiful mug. One of my favorites. I say unbiasedly.
Okay, so following the monks, we get a couple of more quick shots in this trailer. We see some soldiers carrying some sort of device as they run through a battlefield, taking shots. This to me looks very similar to to Saruman's tower and his machine gun. This looks like the same sequence to me. We then see, we have talked about this at length, the sarcophagus being slotted into the USB port. We get another shot of Alia looking angry, looking real goth, looking real hot, frankly. And then we see
True.
And then we see Chani standing in the desert under some sort of expanding ray of light, some sort of door or passageway is opening. Very unclear what's happening there. Followed by a shot of Alia on the throne receiving that group of visitors alongside that sarcophagus, which we talked about earlier.
So wrapping up this teaser, we get a shot of Hate.
Hey!
So exciting. Jason Momoa as the Gola.
In the
is
all
looking up from
white.
his-
Oh my God.
In the all white. What a tall collar. The height of the collar is indicative of his skills with a sword. And that is also a euphemism.
Hello.
And we then basically get a sequence where he and Paul are sparring. I think you and I agree this looks like a demonstration of his still abilities and not a fight to the death, for instance.
Yeah, agreed.
And it is also the same room. You can tell from the stairs and the arch of the room as it kind of arcs over the throne. Quick side note here. I'm a little bummed at the eyes. I hope we get more of an
too.
eye. Like, I liked the metal, the idea of the pitted metal that Frank describes as this kind of inhuman, scary, inaccessible thing.
Yes.
I really liked that detail. So someone in our live chat suggested that this is another thing that might change before the final movie comes out. It does look a little bit final to me, these gray eyes, and it's in the poster. So it's like, I don't think the posters are going to be changed, you know? I kind of wish they were a little bit more inhuman and a little scarier.
I agree. We talked in our live stream about how Denis Villeneuve is a very restrained and minimalist filmmaker. And I personally have appreciated that about Dune Part 1 and Part 2, him just kind of like really scaling down some of the goofier and campier parts of Dune, some of the weirder parts, for example, that David Lynch really leaned into.
Mm-hmm.
Denis Villeneuve has chosen to lean back away from and be a bit more minimalist about it. The eyes of the Abad, for example, are not these pure blue eyes without irises. But I agree, I do find myself being disappointed by Jason Momoa not having the completely metallic eyes of a Tleilax Su Gola. I think that would have added an interesting layer to his character. I think thematically it also kind of works when you consider that eyes are a window to the soul, and there's questions about whether this resurrected being still has a soul. Are you just a husk of Duncan Idaho, or are you the Duncan Idaho that we know and love? I think we lose some of that when he just seemingly has normal human eyes and is wearing gray contacts.
Yeah, agreed. So following that scene, we get a quick shot of Irulan. We see Scytale walking among the people of Arrakis in his own still suit. Very interesting, because most of the time he spends on Arrakis, he is disguised as this Fremen woman. So it's interesting to see him on planet as himself, or as this kind of figure that he's using in other scenes. We'll have to wait and see how much his face dancing ability is actually put on display. How often is he going to be changing fully into someone unidentifiably him? Who's to say?
Yeah. And I think folks in our live stream had questions about whether Denny is going to go as far as to entirely cut his face dancer abilities. Is Scytale never going to shift faces? I think that's untrue. Denis Villeneuve himself, in interviews and Q&As recently, has talked about Scytale as a face dancer. He's named him as a face dancer. And in the character posters that were released ahead of this teaser trailer, Scytale's character poster has like a ghost image of his face, like a second face alongside, kind of, I think, hinting at the fact that he is a shapeshifter. And I think, you know, along the same lines of Denis Villeneuve being a restrained and minimalist filmmaker, I don't think we're going to get something like so campy as like watching his face like bubble and melt and transform into this gross monstrosity. You know, I don't think we're going to get that. I think it's going to be much more subtle and minimalist, but I do think we're going to get some face dancing action from our boy.
That'll be cool. And I do hope for that as well, because naturally it is important. And I think it's a big piece of like, why even call him a face dancer then, you know? So yes. I think the seeds are there. I hope they sprout and bloom.
I'm not afraid to die. But I must not die. Yet.
We get a quick shot of Chani, and then we get the explosion. And
the explosion.
The explosion, capital T, capital E. 3 shots, 3 seems like concurrent shots, show a blinding blue light that fills the screen. The second shot features Paul. I think he's Paul. A bald head with his big, bulky robes, kind of the disguise that he uses when he moves through the streets, along with his guard around him, protecting the Emperor, because, again, he is the Emperor at this point. And then the third shot shows that group of men thrown off their feet by the blast, tumbling through the dirt.
Yes. You know, I had, in our instant reactions, I had boldly claimed the trailer wasn't going to show Stoneburner and they'd keep that secret, but I was wrong about that. And you had pointed out how this blue explosion sequence was clearly Stoneburner, and I think it most definitely is. And the sequence of events pretty much follows what happens in the book too, you know, like Paul is out there in the Arakeen streets with his entourage when this explosion suddenly goes off in the streets and everyone is thrown back and, you know, loses their eyesight. So I'm excited to see that. Some folks in the live stream expressed disappointment that this didn't seem like the biggest of booms. You know, I think some of us might have pictured the Stoneburner being like full-on nuclear blast level explosion. But I think it remains to be seen. We saw 3 quick glimpses. I'm sure once the audio of the explosion and the soundtrack is mixed in, like, we're all about to have our fucking ears blown off by this scene, I'm sure.
Also, what's important to note, although the Stoneburner uses atomic fuel, it is not a nuclear bomb. It is a drilling explosive that gives off a radiation that melts eye tissue, and part of why it's so fucking nefarious to use it on Arrakis is because Fremen, traditionally, if they are blind, they walk into the desert and die. So doing this in a quarter where a bunch of Fremen live is a death sentence to anybody affected by the J-waves that are emitted by the Stoneburner.
Yeah.
So I think that if people are going, oh, I wanted like an Oppenheimer-like explosion that levels half of Arakeen, that's never what the Stoneburner was. It was never about destroying buildings and like leaving a giant crater. I think you're right that we have no reason to think the sound design is going to let us down. The sound of the first 2 movies has been literally jaw-dropping.
Yes.
And it is going to be great, and it's going to be very impactful, but I do need us to all scale our expectations to what Stoneburners canonically are.
Very true.
We're going to see the Stoneburner. We've seen, I think, a glimpse of it now, and I think that it's going to be a very impactful moment, but this is not supposed to level the city. This is a very particular type of explosive, so let's not think about it in terms of like, oh, this is a nuke going off. Right. This is something else.
Yeah. And I honestly, I always pictured it as more of like a mining laser, like a more targeted, like a mining laser that comes out and breaks the surface of the planet. And the risk you run there of blowing up the whole planet is if you drill too deep, you know, you like, you know, whatever, you hit the core or one of the inner layers of the planet and cause a chain reaction. And so I never imagined it as like a literal nuke going off. I imagined it as like a like a very bright, loud stream of powerful like light that shoots and drills down into the planet. And then, as you're saying, the repercussions of that are more the radiation than the actual destruction caused on the ground.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit that scene in Dune Messiah. I know you and I, we're going to go back to the book before the movie comes out, so we'll talk about it. I do think there is a blast and rubble, and there's like dust clearing and stuff like that. So there is something there, but I think regardless, it's going to be unique. It's going to be interesting. It's not going to be like the explosions we're seeing in the war at the beginning of the movie, for instance.
No, it won't be like that. Yeah. All right, let's round out this trailer. We get a final bit of dialogue here from Paul Atreides, and then we see him mounting the stairs onto a huge platform before countless legions of warriors. And then we get this slow tracking shot that reveals his face as at first he's backlit by the sun, and then the sun moves and we see a scarred, haunted Paul Atreides, bald hair, scars all over his face, eyes of the Abad, blue and bright, which we'll come back to shortly because you have a theory on those eyes. The trailer then ends with a final shot of Chani. We see Chani with her blue hairband wrapped around her wrist. She's with crysknife in hand. She's facing off against two nondescript Fremen that we can't identify because it appears they're all standing on the back of a sandworm. And so there's dust swirling all around them. And the trailer ends on a lingering shot of her face before she lunges into action. And then we get title card. Dune Part 3.
The sound design of sandworm rides has been so cool so far.
Yeah.
I am so excited to see a fight on the back of a sandworm.
Oh,
Sounds
my
fucking
goodness.
crazy to me.
Yeah.
What a way to deliver something that was not in the book that should have been in the book. That's
Hell yeah,
crazy.
should have been in the book. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a great point. All right, folks. So that's the trailer, scene by scene, shot by shot, with some of our thoughts sprinkled along the way. Let's take another quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to share our final thoughts and a couple of theories that we're holding on to after seeing this trailer. So stick around for that. We'll be back in just a minute.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your break. Let's jump into some of our thoughts and theories that we have after having watched this teaser. And first up, the theory that I want to share is one that I have around Paul's CGI eyes.
Ooh.
Deep fake news. This is misleading. Saw it on New York Post first. Yeah, right. Sure you did. Paul's actually an alien. Bullshit. Clickbaity article. Anyway, we know that Paul is going to lose his eyes at some point in this movie. And I think that any scene where we are shown Paul, but we don't exactly see his eyes, I think it's up for grabs. I think that the shot when he climbs the stairs and the sun is silhouetting his head and you can't see his face at all, and then the camera tracks a bit, the sun is covered, and suddenly you can see his face. That shot really struck me because until you saw his face, until the silhouetted effect disappeared, I was 100% convinced we were going to see eyeless Timothée Chalamet, which of course doesn't make any sense in the preliminary
That would have been a crazy
teaser for a
reveal
movie.
in the trailer.
Insane reveal in the trailer. That's like Bruce Willis sees is dead in the Sixth Sense trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's insane. So I do think that would be very bold. Now, what has been done in the past is shots have been in trailers, and then after the fact, when they actually are in the movie, they have additional VFX, or VFX was applied to them in order to remove them. I think famously one of the Marvel movies had a character in a scene, and they just removed the character from the scene for the trailer to kind of throw people off the case. So it is done. It has happened. My theory is that this is going to be Paul revealing his I can still fucking see. He's got the scars on his face. I think he will not have eyes. The more I look at that scene, the more I'm kind of convincing myself, because I feel like there's CG artifacting a little bit around his eyes. They look kind of dead and flat. I don't know. Maybe
Leo's
I'm
in the
just commenting on
Batcave,
Timothy's-
zoom and enhance, zoom and enhance.
Zoom and enhance.
Rotate,
CSI.
X-ray.
Blow up the pixel to 6 times the size of the wall. I can't see anything now. Why did I do that? So I think that that was my theory. Now, that being said, during our live chat, Matt Karen pointed out in chat an alternative theory that this is the reveal of Paul's new hairdo, his new kind of sick buzz cut, his biker look.
Yeah.
After the jihad battle montage. So maybe the first chunk of the movie, we have maybe the first 20 minutes of the movie, we have curly locked Timothée Chalamet with his beautiful head of hair. We see all this battling. He's blood on his face and he's kind of marching through the warfield. And then we get the basin shot where he's over the water and he rubs the water on his head. Maybe this is immediately following that haircut. And then he mounts the stairs to all of his victorious soldiers.
Yeah.
And to be fair, this theory, Matt Karen's theory, gives me pause. I think that that's actually a very convincing idea.
Yeah.
Also because the tone of those cheering, jubilant men, so hyped to see Paul Atreides on that platform, feels like we just won the Holy War.
Yeah.
Victory. We fucking did it. Mission accomplished. And this is Paul ascending the stairs and maybe in that moment telling them all, look at what we did. We fucking did it. And now, we get to X, Y, and Z. And maybe that's the transition from battle montage, holy war into the political intrigue and how do we actually, how do I find Chani and et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that is quite a compelling argument, and I could be wrong for sure. But I do think it is still, I said this in our initial reaction, I still think it's very spicy to say that shot has been doctored. And I think that shot is actually him with the pitless eyes. I think that's sick. I think that would be so cool. And I'm still going to say that's going to happen. And then when I'm wrong, I'm fine with it.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. You got to shoot your shot,
Shooting it. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, moving on from your theory about the eyes, let's talk about Alia for a little bit. Let's just touch on this character. We get that stunning shot in the trailer of Alia standing on the platform, white dress billowing majestically around her. Oh my God, Saint Alia of the knife, I'd follow her into battle.
True.
The scale of that shot is incredible. We had some folks in the live chat point out that the architecture behind her looks like the maw of a sandworm, which is very cool, either intentional or unintentional. So some really amazing imagery around Alia. And I think that kind of raises some what ifs that are still left unanswered by this trailer, but it's fun to speculate. It raises some questions about Alia's role in this film. Denis has said in recent Q&As that she will be fiercely dedicated to Paul and ready to do whatever is necessary for her brother, alongside her brother. And that makes me wonder what her role in this story will be, and whether or not we'll see any hints of her future entanglements with Duncan Idaho /Hate, or how much of her fanaticism will we see, how much of her abilities will we see.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought that maybe she would be more fanatical and more let's push the pedal to the metal than Paul. In the womb, maybe she's had visions of what Paul has seen. And we know in Messiah, Paul is only hesitant to push things forward and to move things forward because he's going to lose Chani in the process. But Alia doesn't have that burden. Alia is not looking at the loss of a loved one. Alia just sees the avoidance of extinction of humanity. So I imagine her being like, yeah, let's fucking go, bro. And Paul having to be like, I can't. And you don't understand. I could see that being an interesting way to externalize some of Paul's internal tension. If you make Alia the mouthpiece of no, this religion we're cooking up kind of fucking bangs. Yeah. And I think we can get a lot done. And Paul then being the one to be like, I know I'm the cause of all of this, but it sucks. And I lost Chani and I want her back. And I'm willing to give it all up for that. Yeah. I think that could be very interesting. That's a great read. And a good way, at least, to, again, externalize what is internal in the book to something that two characters could actually chew through in a scene rather than just fucking narration or whatever.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you completely, actually. I hadn't considered that at all, but now that you say it, I'm like, yeah, of course. That makes so much sense. I think Alia being used in that role is so smart. And I think it raises Another point about adaptations that I think is difficult as lovers of these stories who want to see our favorite moments and favorite characters on screen, like they were in the books. I think the reality is that when you're making a film, you need to externalize a lot of internal thoughts from these characters. So much of Messiah, the book, is just Paul being gloomy and depressed and thinking a lot.
Yeah.
And that just won't translate to the film. You need to externalize some of that tension that Paul has as he grapples with his prescient abilities and the choices he has to make as emperor. You need to externalize that into interactions between Paul and other characters. So I think I love your theory there that Alia will be used as sort of a bounce board for Paul's inner struggles and ideas, and to bring them out into sort of the political and military intrigue that we might see on screen. I think Irulan might play some of that role as well, sort of externalizing some of Paul's political pressures in a way where we can have characters interact and talk about it, and it be a part of interpersonal relationships rather than all inside of Paul's head.
Yeah. Also, because I think Paul, what is interesting about Paul broadly in the grand scheme of things is that he is in so many ways kind of a failure. Like, he is a Kwisatz Haderach who takes the galactic throne and overthrows a 10,000 year, empire, but he fails to protect the only person he loves. He fails to avoid the one thing he's trying to avoid time and time again. And we learn later in the series as well that like he has visions of stuff that he really should be avoiding that he's like kind of not, because he's so attached to Chani. And we've given him credit where credit's due. He's the first person ever to have these sorts of abilities, but like he kind of fucking sucks on some levels. And I think that that's often missed out when we talk about Paul. Like we talk about like, yeah, he like won all these fights, but we need to keep in mind he's not a savior for the Fremen. He's really their death sentence. But I think the other side of it is like he doesn't get anything he wants. He is a tragic figure ultimately. So to have someone like Alia who could say, hey, we need to do this. We need to kill these conspirators. And him go, no, we can't. And her go, what the fuck do you mean? You sterilized those planets. I was there with, or whatever. It's like she can be the one to call out his hypocrisy and how much he wavers and isn't, doing the job. He's not getting it done. He half does it until kind of his hand is forced by Scytale and by hate and by
all the plots and the machinations and the politics and religion swirling around him, His hands are eventually tied.
So I think that could be very interesting. And I think it would be nice.
Completely agree.
Maybe not super satisfying for people who are like big fans of rooting for a hero, but at the end of the movie to be like, man, this Paul guy kind of sucked and I really like everyone else. It's like, yeah, but that might be the adaptation that, Frank would have signed off on.
That is, right. That most closely hews actually to Frank's original intent with the story. And I think this actually dovetails us nicely into our last point we wanted to chat about briefly, is Chani, the question of Chani's role in the story. I think a lot of issues that folks had with Chani in Dune Part 1 and Part 2 is that she does take on some of the role of externalizing Paul's internal struggles as his powers are awakened, as he debates whether or not to use the Fremen people to wage a war, to take back the throne, to go south, Those are all conversations and tensions that he then has with Chani externally. That's how Chani's role was incorporated into that film, which, of course, different from the book. Here in Dune Part 3 and Dune Messiah, we get very few glimpses of Chani in this trailer. It seems to intentionally be hiding any clues as to what the heck Chani is up to in this film. She's mostly just standing around in the desert, looking fearsome and in a still suit, and that's it. That's all we get. Right. And there's really like nothing we can glean from that. Villeneuve has said in interviews that the love between Paul and Chani is the heart of the film. And so that to me dismisses some of the fears that have been brought up about Chani and Paul never reconciling, that Villeneuve is going to take Chani in such a different direction that she is constantly opposed to Paul and they never actually fall in love and have children. I think Villeneuve knows the story inside and out. He has said in a variety interview that Dune Messiah is his favorite book in the series, which I love it. Love a guy with good taste. Am I right?
Sure.
And
Sure. Yeah. All right.
and
Sure.
And so I think he knows this story inside and out. He understands that Paul and Chani are central to it. I'm confident he's going to find a way to bridge that gap and bring us back to these two people who love each other dearly. I will say, I said this on the live stream, I think ultimately, if that doesn't happen, I will walk away from the movie disappointed. If Paul and Chani's love doesn't land or is handled lazily, or if it falls short in some way that's disappointing and ham-fisted, I'm going to be disappointed, because I do think Paul's love for Chani, his concern for his future children that he sees in his visions, or his future child, that is so central to his emotional arc in Messiah, to his character arc. It's also so incredibly necessary for them to be in love and for the ending to be tragic in the way it is in the book. Yeah. And we need to end up there in some way, shape, or form. But ultimately, I am confident that Villeneuve understands that and will get us there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Paul's entire reason for doing everything and not doing anything in Messiah is his love of Chani that he has and the relationship that they have, present tense, and not this thing that he once had, that she no longer talks to him. And that, so I have a really hard time imagining even getting to the story of, like, Paul's story in Dune Messiah, if you're even adapting the book, has to be that he has her and doesn't want to lose her.
Right.
And it is very important, I think, to the story. And I understand, like, I think people have celebrated that Chani's not as much of just like a hype yes woman as she is in the book, where she's kind of just going along with Paul. And I have mixed feelings about that. Again, I also have mixed feelings about, like, Kara Kennedy's perspective when we talked to her about Chani, where, you know, it is a messy thing, adapting a book and saying this book was written in the late 50s, early 60s. How do we make it resonate with people in 2025, 2026? It's like, yeah, it's hard. It's messy. And I want young women to see themselves in Chani and to be empowered by her and be brought up by her. And yeah, if you're out there in the world and your fucking guy launches a holy war instead of sticking by your side, girl, break up with him. 1,000%.
Yeah.
But we then tread toward this not being an adaptation of the book Dune Messiah. And then the same question I have for David Lynch. You clearly didn't want to adapt Dune into a movie. You wanted to tell your own story with, like, Dune prop pieces. So it's like,
totally.
I trust Villeneuve to do right by these characters. And I am relieved to hear Leto and Ganima brought up so early in the first teaser for this movie. Maybe Villeneuve is kind of softening people who were like, yeah, fuck Paul. Chani's a never Paul gal. And then Denny with this teaser is going, they might have kids. They might have had kids. Maybe they have kids, you know?
That's right.
That maybe softens people a little bit to the idea that this bridge is singed, but not burnt fully.
Yeah.
And they might come back together during the movie. I'm hopeful.
Me too.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Totally. Look, folks, you can love somebody and still be hurt and betrayed by them and disagree with their actions. Doesn't mean you stop loving them. And I think that's where we find Chani.
And it is within your agency to forgive them or find a new normal with them after the fact.
Absolutely.
You have that capability, and no one can tell you you can't. No one can say, well, the right thing to do is to never X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, everyone, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, completely.
I'm excited. We'll have to wait and see. But man, yeah, first teaser. Woo! Here we are.
There
the
it is.
Timer is at 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 8 seconds.
We did it.
Talking about a 2.5 minute teaser.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
This is fun, though. It's exciting to be back. It feels like we're back.
Yeah. I was thinking about that first when we got to see Dune Part 2 as, like, press, and we got to, like, go in and to see those familiar moments in the framework of the broader movie, and to just see how much better it was than even I was hoping it would be.
Yeah.
I have that same kernel of excitement of like, I think
too.
he's going to fucking do it again.
I know.
And
It's
man, I'm so hyped.
something's in the water, you know? I feel the same. I feel like he's going to do it. All right, folks, that is our deep dive analysis of the very first Dune Part 3 teaser trailer. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. Before we let you go, we do want to remind you of a couple of very important things. The two best ways to support this podcast is, one, to become a patron, patreon.com/GomJabbar. You get ad-free episodes, you get early access to book clubs, you get exclusive live streams, all of that on patreon.com/GomJabbar. And of course, the second best way to help us out is to check out our merch store, gomjabbar.shop. You'll be seeing those mugs in Arakeen, presumably, and you might as well snag yourself one too, so you can be one of the cool kids. Both of those links are in the show notes below, so please check those links out and help us continue to do what we do as we hurtle our way towards December in this film.
So exciting. And hey, we love to hear from you. So shoot us an email, gomjabarpodcast@gmail.com. That's our email address. Send us an email. What did you notice in the trailer? What are you excited about? What are you worried about? What are your hot projections? We can all kind of put bets. We'll meet us on Kalshi or whatever the fuck that app's called. And we're going to do over unders, build a parlay. Who's got the yards covered? gomjabarpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts. Pay the pet tax. Also, if you got cute pets, we want to see them. We want to say hi to your furry friends.
I do.
You know, and if you've got friends who are furries, also say hi to your furry friends. That's another way to say
You don't
that.
have to send us pictures of them. You know, keep those to yourself.
You don't have to. You can tell us about them though. That's kind of cool. What are their fursonas names? I'm curious. You know.
Yeah.
Any Dune fursonas? Do we got any Muad'Dib fursonas out there? What if your fursona was a Charizard?
Oh my God. We're going down a very dangerous road. That's the episode. Bye.
Bye.
Well, friends, there is no real ending. It's just the place where you stop the recording. But this podcast is always one step beyond logic, so help spread the word of Muad'Dib and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And be sure to check out the other shows on the Lore Party Podcast Network on loreparty.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at lore_party. We're also on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, whoever controls the podcast controls the universe. We'll see you on the Golden Path.